You don't have the emotional experience and the emotional dexterity to be able to differentiate at all. It's such an important part of your life. Becoming cognitive at that particular time, it's almost like a curse. It's terribly difficult. When you have your sexual awakening, your sexual awareness, you are no longer a child, and you're becoming cognitive and detached to a small degree from being dependent on the decision-making processes of your parents, and you start your path towards questioning authority. So it's very rough and can come across as being quite destructive, and if it isn't nurtured and handled properly, can create a lot of emotional issues and psychological problems if it's not handled correctly. But ultimately what happens is, how it's translated within the child is that you are incapable of understanding that life is random. You need it to be solid. You need your parents to be in control, and that makes you feel safe, even if it's in an abusive environment, as long as it's consistent and they play their roles. But often you'll find usually around the age of 12, for people that are going to have a spiritual journey, that is when their parents get divorced, cognitive. And because you're incapable of processing and accepting and finding peace in the fact that life is random, and life being random can only translate into something bad as opposed to miracles happen too, because there's been lack of support, lack of emotional nurturing, lack of spiritual development and connectivity between the primary caregiver and the child, the feeling of this separation and now being responsible for one's own decisions to a small extent can become quite frightening. And that perpetuates itself up until the age of 16, 17, 18, when the normal emotional progress between the ages of 12 and 18 is that you push against your primary caregivers and authority in order to develop your own sense of independence and identity. That all becomes very corrupt and broken, and it's not a natural process. So by the time 18 comes around, when you're of drinking age and riding cars age, you've got some serious problems and a lot of pain that hasn't been dealt with, and you've carried this through, and you can't face life openly and honestly and fearlessly and passionately and optimistically because of this lack of connect and foundation of damage and fear. So the first opportunity you find, whether it be sex, food, alcohol, drugs, prescription drugs, street drugs, marijuana, the list is long of how to put a plaster on that pain. Whatever comes first, you're going to go for that, because that's going to give you an opportunity to avoid having to deal with how you're feeling, because you're actually incapable of fixing it. And that is why people turn to vices.